الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Deen teaches the people of Iman to be strategists, to be tacticians when planning their affairs. So different incidents of Anbiya alayhimus salatu wassalam also teaches us. If we look at Moosa alayhi salatu wassalam, then the strategy which was used when the command of Allah came for Fir'aun. So Musa alayhi salam was ready to comply, but looking at the situation, he seen the need. So he made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So part of our strategy is the amal of nubuwah, dua, a weapon for a believer, and likewise the asbab needed. So even asbab, when we are using asbab and means, we need to get Allah's help with regards to those asbab. The power is not in the system. The power is what Allah puts into the system. So a person can have a stick, but Allah can put such power, it could wipe out and obliterate many things. Rabbi shrah li sadri. Oh Allah, expand my chest. He's going in the Maidan of Dawat. So he needed knowledge, he needed Iman, he needed Yaqeen. According to Mufassirin, wassa'ahu wa nawwarahu bil Iman. To make it so vast that his heart is drowned in Iman. In Tafsir al-Baghawi, the qawl of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma is mentioned that Ya Allah, put so much yaqeen in me, la akhafu ghayraka. Ya Allah, I don't fear anybody else besides you. Why? Because Fir'aun had instilled so much fear, and he had such weapons and he had such military. So he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give him that yaqeen, such yaqeen that he knows that la yaqdiru, nobody has power to benefit or harm illa bi'idhnillah. وَإِذَا عَلِمَ ذَلِكَ لَمْ يَخَفْ فِرْعَوْنَ. Then when this yaqeen enters the heart, then there was no need to fear Fir'aun or his power or his military. وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي. And Allah, make my matters easy. So no matter what Maidan, what field, what avenue, what challenge I'm going to face, Ya Allah, you make my matters easy. So no matter how prepared we are, we should not be consoled and gratified that we have made adequate arrangements. That is not sufficient. Everything will be easy when Allah deems it fit. And if we do not have the divine assistance of Allah, then no matter how easy the situation seems, it will become difficult. وَحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي. And I am going in the Maidan of Da'wat, I'm a da'i to Allah. Ya Allah, in this convincing is not in my power, Ya Allah, but yet we say that Hidayat is in Allah's hands. So why did he need to be eloquent? Why did he need to be more vocal? Why did he need more asbab? He made dua, وَأَخِي هَارُونَ وَأَفْسَهُ مِنِّي لِسَانًا. And Harun is more eloquent in speech. He can get the message across. So why was there a need for asbab? So this teaches us lesson that when a believer does anything, he does not do anything haphazardly, but planning and strategy is an integral part of the framework. For the people of Iman, it is such a mechanism which the people of Iman are not oblivious of. As it is said in Arabic, at-tadbiru nisful ma'una. Planning and preparing is already half assistance. It's half the battle. It's semi-victory. التدبير قبل العمل يؤمن الندم. That organization, forethought, groundwork before doing any action secures remorse. It protects a person from regret. التدبير قبل الفعل يؤمن العثار. Adequate planning and precaution before any action prevents one from stumbling, from blundering, from faltering. القليل مع التدبير أبقى من الكثير مع التبذير. To do a little bit but properly with the right planning, with the right correct groundwork is better than doing a lot with extravagance and wastage. Even though a person has the means, he has the asbab, but if we meticulously execute it properly, then that will be more beneficial than trying to do a lot. So human nature is to look for shortcuts all the time. We wait for things to happen, then react. We are not proactive but spontaneous. We are not proactive but impulsive. And with regards to akhirah, we have been told to prepare. But if there is so much ghaflat and jahalat and ignorance with regards to preparing for akhirah, then how much ghaflat and negligence would there be when it comes to dunya, which is more insignificant and valueless. So that's human nature. They say there was a man who walked into a dentist and asked the cost for extracting the wisdom teeth. So the dentist said $80. So the man became upset. He groaned. He said, it's very high, expensive, steep. Can you make it cheaper? So the dentist thought for a while and said, I think so probably if I have to get rid of the anesthetic, I can knock it down to $60. So the man groaned again, said too expensive. Again the dentist scratched his head. Now he said, okay, I can save on the method that we use. I can just rub it out with a pair of pliers. I won't use the correct equipment. So you can knock off another $20. So he still said that's too much. Well, then he thought, he said no options. There was only one more way. I can allow one of my students to do it just for experience, and we can charge you $10. So the man said, that's the best option. Wow, wonderful, great, brilliant. Book my wife in for next Monday. Book my wife in for next Monday. So we look for shortcuts in life, even the ones that are closest to us. We are ready to compromise, not looking at the consequences. Penny wise, pound foolish, or pound foolish, penny wise, both ways. Man is always at loss looking for shortcuts. So some scenarios have been discussed, some events which could snowball and cause this warning of the coming of Dajjal. It could snowball events and cause it to happen overnight. And we do not need to look far. Those who have seen COVID have seen the play and the motion and have understood this is the warm-up and the prelude. Whether it's the vaccinations and how they're going about doing it, whether it's hiding the statistics, whether it's motivating the deaths to be COVID related, whether it's systems to start monitoring people, monitoring your lives, controlling you. Different asbab. Amongst those asbab is CDS, credit default swaps, which can cause a great system collapse. So these fancy, these exotic hedges is a fraction of the $600 trillion global derivatives market. Now we're not going to get into the derivatives and the danger of it, but great visionaries have said that it is a ticking time bomb. So an economic collapse, the whole system crashing and justifying a global reset. The global reset is preparing for the resetting of the coming of Dajjal. If we look at a simple crash in 1929, the Great Depression, where people just survived on beans, people fought over the garbage food and the scraps just to save their lives. Currently now also, the feds have unleashed unlimited quantitative easing. So they wanted to alleviate the strain on financial markets to create buoyancy. And I mean, speaking to people from the US as well, money was literally given away. People that were running lucrative businesses can retire now from the incentives that they received. Then the fiscal stimulus, which was passed over $3 trillion. So these funds are not there. Literally it is not there. But each country is doing that. So that spells danger and disaster. Allahu alam bis sawab. Connected to that is the shortage of food, the food crisis which is impending. One is on the current situation, but more than that, if you look at just the US Agricultural Department, where from 2008 they wanted and they promoted ethanol, and thus, if we look at global statistics, at an average the world consumption is around 107 million tons of grain. So that would feed 330 million people. So that 107 million tons of grain to be converted into ethanol, which would feed so much people. So when George Bush asked farmers to create biofuels in 2017, 500% increase, which is 35 billion gallons, because the US does not want to rely on foreign oil imports. So when you substitute grain for fuel, it will generate a food insecurity on a scale never witnessed before. So food prices have increased according to the World Bank report 2008, 75%. So you're going to have food prices rising. That can cause disorder. Just alone in Thailand, rice thieves have to guard their crops with shotguns. Different other countries, trucks carrying grain are being hijacked. Food trucks hijacked. So a time where cash in transit vehicles were hijacked, we will see times where food trucks, food places will be looted, etc. So one is food shortage, which la ilaha illallah impending. Then water shortage. So they say there is around 3 million, there are around 8 million cubic miles of fresh water in the world. And if we take an average, people drink around a cubic meter of water, yeah. And because of the need for food, it goes up to 1,000 cubic meters. So panels, global movements have been created, world bodies such as the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, and the UN, etc. So there is a warning of a coming water apocalypse, skirmishes, fights over water resources, and they say billions of people will not have water. So if you just look at general data, to produce 1 kilogram of industrial beef, they require 15,500 liters of water, 10 times the amount needed for 1 kilogram of wheat. So around 1 billion people have no safe drinking water, 2 billion people without sanitation, and the US uses 500 billion liters of fresh water per day, around 40% of the fresh water use is used for cooling electrical power plants. Then that amount is used for irrigation as well. So each country is going to be pressurized by the impending shortage of water. Then the energy demand has increased by 57%. The demand of water will double. So they're saying by 2050, the world's population will require around 3,000 cubic miles of water every year. But most of the lakes of the world are overused. China's Yellow River doesn't even reach the ocean. Great lakes like Lake Mead in the American Southwest, they say by this year or next year, they expect it to dry out. So just in the next 4 or 5 years in eastern and southern parts of Africa, 9 countries will have around 1,000 cubic meters of water available per person per year. And if you look at statistics, the stress would rise, and estimates show that just around Africa, the risk of water stress is increasing from 47% in 2000 to 65% in 2025. And this is just based on current conditions, not if things had to spiral out. Now looking at water, if we see Dajjal controlling the water systems, causing rain, causing water, supplying water. If we look at just China alone, in 2005, there were over 80,000 reservoirs. And they had around 4,800 dams completed or under construction that exceeded 30 meters in height. In 2007, they were the world leader in construction of large dams, the tallest dam being 305 meters high, which is the tallest dam in the world. And if we look at total dams, around 2000, there were 22,104 dams over the height of 15 meters. So China accounts for most of 20% of the world's dams and 45% which are used for irrigation. Point being that Dajjal will control the water supplies, etc. So not necessarily we are seeing things unfolding where systems of the world are coming under control of the global elite, so-called elite. Then the issue of the rising sea levels. So according to the report on economics, that 200 million people live in 1 meter of the sea level water. So if the 1 meter goes up, 200 million people's lives are at risk. So the devastation that can be caused when waters are released. And if we find that China is controlling these levels, then there are 10 major rivers which flow through 11 countries and supply water to 1.6 billion people. If China is starting to control that system, then what's the possibility of risk? So the people of Iman need to prepare. We need to see what effort needs to be made in that direction. And Nabi alayhi salam has said, "Inna a'jaba an-nasi ilayya rajulun yu'minu billahi wa rasulihi wa yuqimu as-salah wa yu'ti az-zakah." The most beloved of people to me is that person who's brought iman, established zakat, means fulfills all the awamir of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa ya'muru malahu, he increases his wealth. He increases his wealth. وَيَحْفَظُ دِينَهُ, he safeguards his deen. وَيَعْتَزِلُ النَّاسِ, and he remains aloof from people. So, procuring systems of wealth where in the long term it will not be destructive force. These are avenues which we've discussed where Muslim countries should look at as a whole, or individuals should look at this great risk aspect, and there will be a great demand in the future, but priority focusing on your deen and remaining aloof based on the need, and inshallah Allah gives us tawfiq to go in detail to discuss what precautions and what measures need to be taken and what asbab needs to be implemented, what means we need to implement to secure this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq of making amal. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.